So, folks, this would have been the big news of the week were it not for the new war that dropped over the weekend. But this is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, doing a sort of campaign relaunch as an independent. So we're going to go to what should have been, I guess, the beginning of his speech, but he had a little bit of technical difficulties getting started. Here's RFK taking the stage, launching as an independent.
I need my speech. You can't read anything.
There's no words on it. I'm trying to read it. There's no words there. Fucking thing sucks.
Yeah.
Fuck it.
We'll do it live.
It's upside down. We'll do it live. Fuck it.
Cheryl, go out and tell Curb Your Enthusiasm stories until I find the speech.
Fucking thing sucks.
So once he got the technical stuff worked out, he talked about why he is declaring his independence, as should his supporters there. Let's hear a brief excerpt from RFK's speech.
I've come here today to declare our independence from the tyranny of corruption, which robs us of affordable lives, our belief in the future, and our respect for each other. But to do that, I must first declare my own independence. Independence from the Democratic Party, and from all other political parties. I haven't made this decision lightly. It's very painful for me to let go of the party of my uncles, my father, my grandfather, and both of my great-grandfathers, Honey Fitzgerald.
You know my grandfather,
Patrick
the gangster.
was the first Irish Catholic ghetto mayor of Boston. And Patrick Kennedy, who was a ward boss in Boston. Both of them launched our political dynasty over 100 years ago. But my sacrifice is nothing compared to the risk our founding fathers took when they signed the Declaration of Independence 247 years ago. They knew that if their revolution failed, every last one of them would be hanged. They chose to place everything on the line. When John Adams put his pen down after adding
the risk that my uncle took when he crossed Big Sam
turned to the
Giancana. We all know how that turned out.
Live or die, survive or perish. From this day on, I am with my country. I'm going to make that same pledge to you today, so that I can stand before you, as every leader should stand before you, free of partisan allegiance, free from the backroom deals, servant only to my conscience, to my Creator, and to you.
All right. Now, when you look at something like that, you think Bernie Sanders running independent in 2016 was just the common sense thing to do. It wouldn't have even been a particularly radical thing to do. RFK's rationale is that people have invested in my candidacy. My candidacy has given hope to a lot of people. He said that in his video. Mm-hmm. And he feels like he has some responsibility to his constituency, to his supporters, to take his candidacy as far as it can go. And if he's being cheated or fucked over by the Democratic Party, it's just common sense that you would run as an independent. There's nothing really radical about it. And so you watch that and you think what could have been, because he had about 1,000 people at this event. It wasn't particularly well attended. You had Bernie Sanders filling stadiums in 2016. Imagine the moment that would have created. Imagine the world, what the world would have looked like had he done that. We'd be living in a completely different world. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that all of the excitement was drained from this event as soon as the Israel war broke out because his stance on that issue just makes his candidacy a non-starter. How do you get excited about
made
that?
it something people can't even ignore.
People can't even.
Some
People didn't
people
even
tried
watch
to-
this. What Pasta said to Norm Finkelstein was when he was interviewing him, and Pasta was a big RFK supporter, or at least a backer of RFK, not a formal endorser of RFK. He always had this reservation. It was actually Pasta that asked him the first question about this when he deleted the tweets in support of Roger Waters. But Pasta told Norm the other night, he says, I wasn't even interested in watching this. That tells you what you need to know.
When you've lost the pasta vote.
Yeah, I mean, superficial to say, obviously, because ultimately, RFK's campaign launch is irrelevant in the grand scheme of things, right? Obviously, the human life that's been lost so far and the human life that's going to be lost in the coming days, weeks, and months and years is obviously much more important. But you couldn't get worse timing for people like us to give a shit about RFK's speech. Because even, I'm sorry, I don't mean to keep monologuing.
No,
I'll just make one more quick thing. It's my fault. Even Russ and I, who have been highly, highly, highly critical of RFK, gave him credit for making this move, and we were excited to see what would happen, right? Just that chaos factor, right? Just the, let's see if we can not endorse the candidacy, but sort of root for the candidacy to cause maximum chaos within the system. With his stance on Israel, one of the things we're realizing now is not to keep blackpilling people, but just how hopeless the political system is, because he is worse than all of them on this key issue. So anyway, those are my thoughts. Sorry I went long. It's hard for me to contain myself tonight. It really is. This is not easy. This is not an easy show to do. It really isn't.
It's rough. I think what this is bringing out, though, and this keeps coming up in a lot of different areas, the old calculus on this issue is completely shattered. And I think where you're seeing it in the most surprising place is with liberals, because liberals have been told they're the prime identity politics people, right? They're the ones who have most been trained to substitute identity politics for class consciousness, right? So they've been told for years that, we have to decolonize, and you have to decolonize curriculums, and you have to decolonize your mind, and you have to support indigenous people, and you have to support marginalized people. This is what you've been telling them.
Right.
This is what you've been telling them. So then all of a sudden there's a conflict between brown people in this open air prison and colonizers mostly from outside the region or descended from outside the region, who have been abusing them for almost 100 years. And they didn't get the reaction to the I Stand With Israel that they expected.
Right.
Not even, from people like us, they expect us to reject that. But they're getting rejections, the people who follow George Takei rejecting that formulation, right? There's a backlash that I think a lot of cultural elites and thought leaders did not expect around this. I was telling you about this. I saw a meme today that I thought was very clever. That was like an actor with two cell phones. One, I stand with Israel, one I stand with Palestine. And it said an actor trying to figure out whether he stands with Israel or Palestine. Right. Like, what's the move?
Right. Who's called white take?
Right, exactly. And that's something that would have been a no-brainer 10 years ago.
Yeah, indeed. Stone122112 says on Rumble, this is related to this segment here. One of the main points of RFKJ's campaign is to expose the DNC and Dems as mega corporate shills, especially after the Obamacare takeover, which benefits big pharma. Yeah, I've heard that point, and I understand that there are people out there who found some rhyme and reason in that. My response to that is his core constituency are disaffected left-wing populists and basically conservatives who are not too big on Trump, but like some of the more populist themes in Trump's platform. Both of those groups already hate the Democrats. They already understand that the Democrats are beyond repair. So respectfully, I would just say that this whole launching as a Democrat seemed like a big therapy session for him personally. If you listen in that speech, he said, "It breaks my heart to do this. My family was Democrats." This is what we said earlier. Like, your emotional loyalty to the Democratic Party is not the country or the world's problem. You owe it to whatever movement you're trying to build to get over that and get over it quickly, so that you can, if you are open to running as an independent, just hit the ground doing that. Like, I don't know how many other people needed an education about how worthless the Democratic Party was that got one through his campaign and the way they tried to box him out. His core constituency are disaffected left-wingers and basically former Trump supporters. Both of those groups are very, very, very familiar with how much the Democrats suck. He's the Kennedy. Yeah. He's the guy who didn't get it.
Right, right. And I mean, to be fair, that's why he didn't get it. So, okay, like, that was all well and good. But now that this is going to, at least for the foreseeable future, be the issue of the moment, this is going to be the most divisive issue in the country. You
mean the Israel-Palestine?
The Israel-Palestine. His position on that is a deal breaker for a lot of the people who would be most likely to support him. I mean, he'll only be left really with his support from the right, and only from portions of the right that have absorbed that fanatical pro-Israel mindset. And for those people, a lot of his other views would be anathema.
Yes, indeed. Indeed. There were people who were already posting about his gun control stances, which they didn't like.
That's what I'm saying. The people from the right who are going to love his Israel position are going to hate his guns position. Right. So
what's he got?
Who's going to back his campaign now?
Well, you know who's not backing his campaign?
Shmuley. He's got the Shmuley vote.
He's got the Shmuley vote. But you know whose votes he does not have? The Kennedys. Here's Kerry Kennedy. Bobby might share the same name as our father, but he does not share the same values, vision, or judgment. Today's announcement is deeply saddening for us. We denounce his candidacy and believe it to be perilous to our country. That's the graphic that they put out, signed Rory Kennedy, Kerry Kennedy, Joseph Kennedy II, and Kathleen Kennedy Townsend. In addition to getting shit from his own family, Rob Reiner was not happy about his candidacy either. Bobby Kennedy Jr.'s announcement to run as an independent is dangerous and cynical move by wealthy Republicans to put Trump back in the White House. I talked with Bobby and told him what he's doing could destroy American democracy. He didn't care.
Yeah, and that's in a nutshell the problem with your whole fucking liberal class, Rob. There is no American democracy, you schmuck. There's American democracy for you. For people who are fabulously wealthy. You have some say in the system. The poors don't. The rest of us don't. We're fucking peons, man. We don't have a say. You know, this was one of the things I was actually thinking about quite a lot in my recent journeys and adventures. You know, you talk about Greek philosophy, or talk about all these figures in Rome, and you talk about the culture and the arts that they created and the political systems they created. You know, who are you talking about? You're talking about, when you talk about the history of cultures and civilizations, you're talking about the conversations and thoughts of its aristocracy. I mean, that's really who you're talking about. Wait, what do you think? Aristotle was a baker? He came from a privileged family. All these guys did. Plato, you know, they all came from money. Same in Roman society and same in American society. When you're talking about the 60s, who do you think you're talking about? Who do you think was at Woodstock? The working class? So all these are the people who feel that they live in not only a democracy, but they're the ones who feel like they have a stake in the great debates of their time, because they do, because they influence the outcome. I had somebody say to me the other day, because I was going off on some, you know, cultural issues, and they said, well, you know, these are things that concern a very small number of people. I said, you're absolutely right, and that's the problem. It's a very small number of people who have an outsized control over the course of society and the cultural conversation because they control the means of communication.
I thought a great response to Rob Reiner was from Roseanne Barr, who replied, "You told someone that them running for president will destroy America, and they didn't care about your opinion? Do they not understand that you're a very smart man?" That's crazy. He should immediately drop out. As you know, democracy is dangerous to our democracy, and we can't let Americans vote for who they want. That would be pure fascism. Yeah. You know you've sunken very, very low when Roseanne Barr is embarrassing
Is owning you
on Twitter and owning you. Yeah, indeed. I called Bobby and told him that he could destroy democracy, and he didn't care. I'd have loved to be tapping the phone on that call. I'd love to be listening in on that call. See how that
It's
went.
basically like the meathead got owned by Archie.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Absolutely.
Please clap.